Hey guys, welcome back to rhrjen. I'm so glad you're here today. As you can see, I have a very special guest with me. If you're not familiar, his name is John Witherspoon. He's an attorney out of the DC area, and he brings with him all kinds of excellent expert legal knowledge. And I'm just so excited to talk to him. We're going to be talking Johnny Depp stuff. He was there in the courtroom. We're going to be talking Meghan and Harry stuff as he's followed along with that. And first off, I mean, what a day to be recording with you, John. We just got news of Harry's settlement, so we're going to be talking that. But first of all, I want to say welcome, John. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Jen. It's nice to be with you, and I appreciate the opportunity. I know you have a loyal following, and when I watch your videos, you always get a ton of great comments. So I know people are very engaged with the content that you provide. So, as I
Thank
said, I appreciate the chance to be with you.
Yeah. So when I mentioned you coming on, I talked about it in a live stream. People were very excited. They definitely have followed your work. Tell us some of the other channels we've seen you on.
Well, I've been on a couple. I've been on with Steph the Alter Nerd.
Mhm.
She's out of the UK. And then I've also been on Andy Signore's channel. He
Mhm.
has actually two channels. He has Popcorn Planet and Popcorn Palace.
Yeah.
And he does a great job. And Steph does a great job as well, just
Mhm.
really deep diving into a lot of good content and um, making a very enjoyable style of presentation.
So, John, definitely, I look forward to getting to know more about your background and stuff. We'll be doing that on a separate video. But on this one, we just got to dive right in. We just got news of Harry's settlement. So, I did
Mhm.
bring a couple of things. We don't know the specifics, but I just wanted to talk to you about and get your opinion, get your take on things. If this is true, this Chris Ship is reporting that they believe that he was awarded somewhere between 10 and 20 million pounds. Again, this is according to a source, so grain of salt. Just
Mhm.
talk me through this. What are your initial thoughts hearing this?
Well, I mean, it's a really interesting case, and the UK courts work differently than the US courts do. And obviously, I'm not in the UK, so I can't give you perfect information.
Sure.
Probably couldn't give you perfect information even in the US. But what I will say is, I think it's been very clear all along this has been an incredibly high stakes game of chicken
Mhm.
because of the way the law is set up in the UK. If you don't accomplish, basically in the very most general terms, if you don't accomplish everything that you need to accomplish, even though you win, you can really lose.
Okay.
And a lot of that has to do with the parameters that have been offered in terms of settlement and going to trial and all kinds of other stuff. But it was a huge, huge risk for both sides. The financial ramifications could have been absolutely catastrophic for both sides. But you're talking about, on one side, News Group, which is a multi million, billion, whatever pound dollar company. And on the other side, you're talking about Harry. He's a private citizen.
True.
Nobody knows exactly how much money he's got. He could, I think, probably easily have been driven into bankruptcy.
Mhm.
And if things had not gone his way, and I strongly suspect that his legal team sat him down and maybe for once he actually listened to them. And they said, look, the last time you were in court and you took the stand, you didn't quite, you know, perform as well as we might have hoped. And there's this huge financial risk that you're undertaking by continuing to pursue this case. And you ought to think very, very clearly about what it is that you're trying to accomplish here and what you're willing to put up with and what you're willing to tolerate in terms of extracting yourself from this situation.
Mhm. Yeah, no, he I know. I'm processing what you're saying and I'm thinking about it. And yeah, that dude, I think he just has this delusion in him. I thought it was about taking down the media, but he's settled. So it seems to be about money. Is that
Well,
where your
one
head's at?
well, one of the things that he apparently has said is
Mhm.
that he wanted accountability. If you go back to the New York Times interview that he did a couple of weeks ago, for the book summit or whatever that forum was. He said what he has said in a lot of cases historically, which is, I want accountability. I want people to admit that they misbehaved. I want people to admit that potentially crimes were committed and so on and so forth. And that's my real goal. And I want to basically slay this dragon that takes the form of the British media. And I want them to never do again going forward what they've been doing here. I have to say, having lived in the United States my entire life and having been very involved with, just even reading the newspaper, but watching, the news networks on TV and so forth, and having known some print and television reporters, this whole business of going into somebody's voicemail and listening to their messages, I can't imagine that happening in the United States. Call me naive, but I just cannot imagine that a US-based news gathering organization would engage in that type of stuff. And I'm aware that in the UK in particular, these news gathering organizations, News Group, and whoever all these other publishers are, it is so completely cutthroat over there that they resort to some behaviors that apparently are not as respectable, I guess is the right word, as they might be, and they resort to these types of tactics. So, as I said, nobody deserves to have their voicemails hacked into and reported. Nobody deserves to have their name dragged through the mud as a result of something that some private investigator or whoever it is has, managed to dig up. And so from that perspective, I cannot fault him for being angry. I cannot fault him for, as I said, if somebody threw a rock through my window, I would be upset about it too. And I would want the police involved, and I would want them to pay for what they had done. At the same time, though, as some people have said, I think appropriately so, well, you're upset because your private conversations were disclosed. What about that little pamphlet that you wrote called Spare?
That's right. Exactly.
And I think that angle is going to be the lasting legacy angle of this. I've said to several people, in 2 weeks' time, this is going to be a footnote. This is not going to be on the front page in the way that it is this morning. Because everybody's going to go back to Harry's legacy of being a global citizen, for lack of a better term. And they're going to fixate on, why is the guy so dislikable? Why does he keep doing all this stuff that nobody cares for? It's an interesting analogy that just popped into my head. How long has it been since Polo came out? It's been it's been a month or so or something like that?
Yeah, it was in December. So.
Yeah. Is anybody still talking about Polo?
No.
You think of all the attention that got when it appeared on Netflix, and everybody said, wow, this is not the best television I've ever watched in my life. That's the way that this settlement is going to be viewed going forward. It is going to completely fall off a cliff in terms of people's interest in it. It's just the way people are. And yet, and the brilliant thing is that, if you want to call it that, at least from the Megxit community's perspective, is they keep reinventing reasons to pay attention to them, all of which are,
insanity.
It's like, I guarantee you. It's entirely possible that they'll do something. The two of them will do something dumb tomorrow.
Yes.
And that'll be the end of the settlement story right then and there. It won't even take 2 weeks or a month.
Yeah.
To wipe this out of people's consciousness.
You're absolutely right. I think so too.
Yeah,
Going back on the settlement thing, so, again, we don't know the number, but just going off what this guy's saying, let's play a hypothetical game. So if they're ranging between 10 and 20 million is what he got, I'm calling BS, but let's just pretend. Okay, so dead in the middle, 15 million. That's that's not what he would actually get, though, when they say numbers like that. Can you explain to us what that again, we're just guessing, but, like,
yeah,
what that means?
sure. Well, he has declared himself to be a resident of the United States, and
Mhm,
I'm not sure all of the ins and outs of that, but let's just say he's basically playing by the same rules that everybody else plays when they live in
mhm,
California. Federal government, the top tax rate is 37%. With a few exceptions, and I don't think any of them apply here. Uh, a a windfall from a legal case like this one is taxed just like ordinary income is taxed.
okay.
So conceivably 37% of the whatever he got is going to go right out the window to the federal government, to the Internal Revenue Service in the United States.
Mhm,
I'm not entirely familiar with how state tax and federal tax rates dovetail in California. In some cases, there's a subtraction of one from the other and so forth, and I don't want to get into all that.
mm,
But I would venture to guess he's going to pay some California tax as well.
okay.
And then he's got to pay his legal team.
Mm,
Holy cow. I'm sure that he has very high powered lawyers working for him,
yeah,
and not just a few of them either. I bet he's got a substantial legal team, by which I mean 6, 8, 10 top notch lawyers
yeah.
that are spending time on this and that have been spending time on this. This has been going on for 6 frigging years, for heaven's sakes. So his legal bills have to be absolutely astronomical. I
I
mean, in the
think
United States, I'll just um, it is not hard at all in Washington, D.C. to find lawyers that are charging well over $1,000 an hour for their services.
wow.
Those are I mean, and again, we're talking about the top tier people down on K
Yeah.
Street and,
Mhm,
the cream of the crop. But I would bet that he's got some of those people representing him.
mhm. Well, the
So,
main guy he met in, like, Ibiza or something like that. It was somewhere crazy, like one of these really expensive resort areas. And he's like,
yeah,
"Yeah, let's be" so, I'm
right.
sure he's
Well,
cheap. Yeah.
right, right. Well, I mean, I'll date myself a little bit here, but I remember in the OJ trial, when the O.J. Simpson trial was taking place in the United States, which if for people who don't know, was a very high profile case. It was involved an American retired football player who was alleged to have killed his wife and another guy. They were represented by some very, I mean, O.J. Simpson was represented by some very high powered people, including one of the Kardashians, who was an attorney, and F. Lee Bailey, and some really uh, very highly respected lawyers. When that trial took a break, I happened to be in Hawaii at the time, and we were staying at I think we were at the Four Seasons Hotel, and looked around, and lo and behold, there's several of O.J. Simpson's lawyers that are
Wow.
there. So, I mean, these guys are high flyers, and I shouldn't give myself too much credit. I was there as a guest of someone else. I would not have picked the Four Seasons. I would have said, sand in the ocean is good enough for me as long as I can in a reasonable amount of time get myself to the beach. I don't need to be at the Four Seasons Hotel. But
Sure.
anyway, that's where I was, and that's where all these legal guys were too. And we were just laughing and saying, "Oh my gosh, you know, here we are, and these are some real hotshot lawyers." So we felt very special by being at that hotel with those guys. So
I
it was fun.
guess so, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool. Let's see, I pulled other things real quick on Harry. Oh, if you don't mind, I actually would like to play, like, a 30-second clip of him bragging about how he's not gonna settle. We can talk about that. Take a
yeah.
look.
And so you think that everybody's just settled because it just doesn't make any economic sense to continue?
No, I know why people have settled. They've settled because they've had to settle. So therefore, one of the main reasons for seeing this through is accountability, because I'm the last person that can actually achieve that, and also closure for these 1,300 people and families.
How about that? Lecturing about accountability and closure.
Well,
Things that he knows nothing about.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, the irony.
I
Um,
Oh, the
Look, he doesn't.
hypocrisy.
Yeah,
Oh.
he doesn't know why anybody else is settled.
Yeah.
So I mean, come on. What is he? Is he a mind reader? Does he have a crystal ball of some sort? He doesn't know why these people have settled. They may have been given very generous offers.
Mhm.
Why not? I don't
Sure.
want to waste. I don't want to waste my life on this foolishness.
Mhm.
Something happened to me. I mean, listen. I've got my job, my family, my garden, whatever. I don't want to be tied up in court
Right.
for weeks and months, and so any number of reasons why people might settle,
Mhm.
especially if it's basically a slam dunk. If their
Mhm.
lawyer says to them, I mean, if the lawyer says to them, look, how much is your time and your emotional energy worth? Here's a nice check that you can take straight to the bank. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what exactly did they hear in your voicemail
Mhm.
that was so problematic? I mean, again, he's got a different agenda, so he doesn't have any idea why other people settled.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, it's kind of
I
too
know.
much.
He always yeah, I know. He's it's like he again, I go back to that book Spare where he oscillates between victim and dragon slayer as he called himself. And I wish I could take credit for it. I cannot. Somebody brilliant online said something like he's a dragon slayer with a plastic sword. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
So
right. Well, and as I said, he could easily have gotten a very, very nasty and unappealing result
mhm.
if this had gone to trial. And as
Yeah.
I said a moment ago, the last time he got in the witness box, he did not do himself any favors when he was making comments like, well, he was asked, I think, why, if I recall correctly, this is all alleged because
Sure.
um, I'm trying to
Well, he
recall, but
says
there
a
was.
lot of crazy things. So yeah.
Yes, and it was something apparently along the lines of, well, I don't have any evidence of whatever you're asking me about. I'm just telling you. That's why I've come here. I'm the great Harry. I'm going to tell you the answers. And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't really cut it when you're in court. That's nice for a conversation at the pub with your friends. Everybody's telling everybody else what happened and what the truth is, but uh, that only gets you so far when you're sitting there under cross-examination.
It was something along the lines of the judge asked him like what or somebody asked him, "What proof do you have?" And he said something like,
Yeah,
"It was a feeling I had." It's like, "What?
right,
Okay."
right.
I don't think we can judge based on feelings. I don't
Yeah, the facts don't care about your feelings,
Yeah.
as the saying goes.
Exactly. But I do so love when that guy goes to court because he says the craziest things I've ever heard. As a lawyer, do you have like a huge reaction to it? Because as a non-lawyer, I do.
Oh, absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. There are people, not to get too far into the Johnny Depp trial, but I think one of the common characterizations of the two legal teams in the Depp trial was that Johnny Depp's lawyers were playing chess
Mhm.
and Amber Heard's lawyers were playing checkers.
That's
And the
great.
difference between those two games is that when you're playing chess, you have to have the ability to think around corners and to see around corners. And it's like if I do X, what will this person's response be? And then the ripple effect from that. And Harry, I don't think is gifted in terms of his ability to see the ripple effects of things that he says and things that he does.
Yeah.
And in some cases, he and Meghan, I don't think, even anticipate what the immediate effect of what they say and do is going to be. And I mean, a
Mhm.
perfect example of that is the business with the wildfires, which we can get into, at a different time. But it's like, okay, well, what do you think the public's reaction is going to be? What is Jennifer Garner going to say? Or Justine Bateman in particular, or Kelly Osbourne.
Sure.
What are those kinds of people likely to say to rip me apart if we go down there and hand out bottles of water and bags of potato chips and all that kind of stuff. And also knowing full well that there are a lot of people who are very fed up with them. Again, it's all part and parcel of the same inability to see what's coming around the corner, especially, if you're driving 90 miles an hour and you hit a patch of ice, what is going to be the upshot of that? I don't think, has the ability to see that type of thing.
I think you're spot on. I think those two, I mean, for lack of a better way to explain it, their heads are so far up there, they can't see anything but themselves. And yeah, I think critical thinking is lacking there for sure. I totally agree with
Yes,
you.
critical thinking is a very, very, I think it's underappreciated, and I think it is underdeveloped in a huge segment of the population, and in particular with Harry and Meghan.
I think
I
you're
really,
right.
I mean, that has been my sense for a long time.
Yes, I think you're right. Something I wanted to circle back on, it just is interesting to me, and it probably has no bearing from a legal point of view. I just find it fascinating on this Rupert Murdoch, this hacking case. It
Mhm.
turns out Doofus was hacked 9 times, and to your point, of course, hacking is terrible. You wouldn't want that on anybody, but 9 times to William's 35 and Catherine's 155.
Right.
Which one of the three is screaming the loudest? you
Yeah.
know, and we
Right.
can't let it go. Whereas William had settled a long time ago, allegedly, I think it was about $1 million or pounds. And then it was given to Invictus, which I think is incredible that he would just turn around and give straight to a great cause. That's wonderful. And I believe Catherine's may have, I can't remember, that's similar. She got a payout, and I think that was given maybe to a childhood because she tends to support children's causes,
Mhm.
something along those lines.
That's
I'm
a
so,
great point, and
yeah,
it actually brings up something else,
mhm,
which I think will be very interesting to keep an eye on. What is Harry going to do with his money? Is he going to give it to Invictus? Is he going to
exactly.
give it to Archwell? Won't that be interesting if it ends up in Archwell's
Oh,
bank
there,
account
yeah, yeah.
and it helps to fund another,
Award buying
award
process.
buying or yeah, allegedly award buying or
Mhm,
another trip to uh, you know, Ghana or wherever is next on their um,
mhm.
on their bucket list of places to go visit. Or could it go to African parks? Wouldn't that be interesting? If it was to go to shoring up African parks and let's get to the bottom of some of this alleged misbehavior over there.
That's true.
It'll just be very interesting to see. And
Mhm.
the interesting thing as well will be whether there's a big press release and a big hue and cry and harumph about, oh, guess what? I won all this money from News Group and I'm going to do what with it?
Yeah, that's
That'll
true.
be very interesting.
The wildfires even, something,
Yes.
yeah, I think
Yes.
so.
And
Yeah.
give it to one of those charities that he listed along with Meghan on that. Oh, by the way, in case you're um, desperately looking for a place to donate funds,
Mhm.
here's a handy list you can stick on the refrigerator with a magnet and keep an eye on because I'm sure none of you would ever think, oh, just give it to the Red Cross because no, we've
Right.
got you know
Absolutely, because so many people would go to Archwell's website to figure out how to help people.
right,
You can't make it make
right,
any sense. Yeah.
right, right.
I think
A
I'm
state of
with you. Oh,
what
go
killed me on that too was a
ahead.
state of emergency has been declared. Really, really.
I
Who
know.
thought?
Yeah, there was talk of Doofus coming down to Florida to help people with the hurricane, and we're just like, no, no,
Right? Yeah. Do you want him to come to your house? Do you
no.
have
I
big, big,
really, really don't.
a big Harry? Please stop here. Help! Help!
No, he'll just walk over like, messed up properties and stuff and take pictures. No,
Right.
we don't want that. We don't need that. We've already been devastated. We don't need that. No,
Right.
it's absolutely crazy. The other question that immediately popped into my head when I heard settlement, no matter the amount, I thought, well, if it's in the millions, I wonder if this will delay any kind of divorce plans. Again, we're just speculating. I can't help but wonder, that
Yeah.
might keep her hanging on a little bit longer if he has a little bit of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, I'm not familiar with California law, but like I said, this would normally be considered ordinary income, and I suspect that she would, because by virtue of the fact that they're married, I suspect that she would probably get a she'd be entitled to a chunk of that as marital property.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Oh,
interesting
man.
point. Interesting
Yeah.
point.
Huh. So, just off the top of your head, I'm just thinking out loud. Okay. So, again, you're an attorney. Harry's your client. What advice would you give to Harry in general in a courtroom? Just chill out and stop saying dumb stuff.
Well, you make a really good point with that question,
Mhm.
because you again, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I'm sure people remember there was a time in the Johnny Depp trial when Amber Heard was on the witness stand and she started talking about Kate Moss all of a sudden. And Ben Chew, Johnny Depp's lawyer, turned around and looked at the rest of his team and pumped his fist.
I remember.
And that was an epic blunder
Mhm.
on Amber Heard's part. And one of the questions that everybody asked was, um, why in the world would she say something like that? And why didn't her lawyers warn her against that type of just sort of freewheeling, spitballing, which is basically what it was?
Mhm.
Why wasn't she better prepared? Why wasn't she at a minimum told, do not talk about Kate Moss? That is radioactive. And
Mhm.
as we all saw, lo and behold, guess who shows up on the TV screen the next morning? I think it was. Lo and behold, there's Kate Moss.
Mhm.
Miss Moss, let me just ask you a few questions. Did you do blah, blah, blah? No, no, nothing like that happened. I slipped on steps because it had been raining,
Mhm.
you know. So anyway, um, he's a very dangerous commodity to
Yeah.
have on the witness stand. There's no question about that. If I was his lawyer, I would be very nervous. And
Yeah.
I'd be very concerned that he might say something that would really cause me a lot of heartburn.
Yeah.
And he's just one of those people. Even if, I mean, I would sit down with him and explain to him, you cannot say X, Y, and Z. Even if you really want to. That's the problem, is a lot of times people get so wrapped up in what they want and what they think is right. And the lawyer just kind of has to sit there and say, please, please, please don't say that. Don't say that. Please listen to me when I'm trying to help you. My job is here. My job here is to help you. I'm not trying to keep you from getting the truth out. My job is to help you win.
Mhm.
And this is the reason why they strongly advise people don't go in there and try and represent yourself. Don't try and outsmart your lawyer. I'd be very nervous, like I said, if I was his lawyer, especially if he had to get on the witness stand. I mean, I would just sweat bullets. I
Yeah.
really would. I really would.
When you
Because
said oh, please, go ahead.
no, I've made the
Yeah.
point.
No, you just make such a good point about this, and when you say that about Harry, do not say XYZ, I have a reaction thinking, "That's how I have to tell my young child." You talk to a young child like that, like, you do not say, "I don't like this Christmas gift." You smile and say, "Thank you."
Exactly.
But if you put the
Yes.
idea in their head, they're going to say, "I do not like this Christmas gift," whatever
Right,
it
right. Or the kid. I remember even as a kid being told at my birthday parties, and I remember seeing this at other kids' birthday parties. The kid opens a present that
Uh-huh.
somebody has brought, and their immediate reaction is, "Oh, I already have one of these."
That. Exactly.
Yes, just
Exactly.
exactly what you're. Or God, I hate purple. Why did you?
That's
Oh, a
right.
purple sweater? Oh, I hate purple. Ugh,
That's
yuck.
that's
You know,
exact
and I've had this conversation with people that I've tried to help, and it's like, look, and they're you can't say this type of stuff, and then their reaction is, oh, but I have to tell my truth,
That's
or
it, exactly.
you just can't do that. And that's where, I think an effective lawyer can really rein someone in and really craft the message. The whole point is, as I said, the 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 point is to get your client what they need.
Mhm.
And in order to do that, in order to achieve that goal, you have to convince the client that there is a specific narrative that needs to be woven. And it's not that you're being deceptive, but there's certain things that are helpful, and there's certain things that you just think, okay, I understand you're very passionate about that. I understand how you feel about your truth and everything else, but that information is not going to be productive in front of the jury or in front of the judge, and you really don't want to say that, no matter how badly you think you want to just blurt it out.
Well, it goes back to your point of it's chess versus checkers. If you're
Yes.
playing chess, you can see 3 steps ahead of you and think about, I don't wanna say that, but Harry is playing freaking, I don't know, tic-tac-toe. He doesn't know what he's doing, so
Yeah.
he's not
Well,
playing
and
either
and
game, so
yeah, and the worst part of it with somebody like Harry, and I don't know the guy, I just know what I see on TV, and I know
Sure.
what I see him in interviews and all that kind of stuff. But I get this. One of the most powerful things that was ever said to me, and it actually was by a sports coach. Um, in the middle of the season, some issue came up, and he said, "You don't know what you don't know." It is so true. And even as an attorney, I mean, one of the things that what you're talking about seeing around corners, there are times when I'm hesitant about something because it's not that I can see around the corner and anticipate what's going to come next. It's that I don't know what's around that corner.
That's true.
And I don't want to take the risk of going someplace where I'm going to have to peek around the corner and, have somebody tear me apart.
Mhm.
So again, that's kind of the difference between, um, somebody who has critical thinking skills and is trained to be able to anticipate what might come next
Mhm.
versus somebody who just, well, it's important that I get my message out and I tell my story and I reveal my truth and everybody needs to know this kind of stuff. It's like, no, you can save that stuff for the sidewalk outside the courthouse if you want after the trial is over.
Right.
But as far as this time is concerned and our conversation in front of the judge, in front of the jury, just let me tell you how to drive the car.
Mhm.
Don't get creative. Don't you know, don't get clever. Don't think that you know what's going on because you don't. Just
Just
keep
shut
it
up and
simple.
do what I
Just
tell you.
yes. Yes,
I'm
exactly.
sure. Oh, he would be a nightmare. Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Well, I can only imagine it, as we talked about a minute ago, when he was in that courtroom previously. Well, that's what evidence do you have? Well, I don't have any. That's why I'm here. I mean, if I'm recalling, and it's just like, oh, I'm sure his lawyer wanted to dig a hole and get in it. Really,
I can
and
only imagine.
go out in the woods and dig a hole and just let the animals come and get me. I can't. Really, that's what you feel like.
Uh-huh. No,
And
I
I'm
agree.
sure I'm sure again, to go back to the Amber Heard thing, I'm sure that's what Elaine felt like. It's like, "Oh my god. Oh, oh, where's my gun? I can't take it anymore." I wanna I wanna just check out.
Uh-huh. Well, and again, I plan on going in this with you on a separate video, but I gotta bring it up. Megan's behavior in court. She has a history there. She had to apologize because she forgot that she helped with finding freedom. So she ended up having to apologize to the court because she forgot that she helped her friend write a book. You know how you forget that you helped your
Yeah,
friend write.
yeah, I was just gonna say, forgetting is such a loaded word.
Uh-huh. I
It's like,
forgot. I
you
forgot that I
forgot.
helped a friend write a book.
Yeah. Did you, what there's no gas in the car, but you told me that you didn't use it while we were out of town. How
I
did the gas get out of the car? Did you go anywhere? No. Well, Mrs. So-and-so said that she saw you at the movie theater. Did you take the car to the movie theater? Oh, yeah, I forgot.
right.
Really, I mean, it's like high school grade
It is.
obfuscation and just sort of, I mean, how, again, it's like a kid lying to their parents and like,
Yes.
okay, do you not think we'd notice that there's
Right.
no gas? Well, I don't
Right.
know what happened to all that gasoline, petrol for the UK people. I don't know
Yes.
what happened to it. I can't imagine. Oh, yeah, maybe I did get in the car. Yeah, oops, sorry, I forgot.
But it points to the big picture of continued hypocrisy too, because they're the first one to call out everybody for lying, even though, you know what I mean? Like if it doesn't fit their agenda, yeah, absolutely. I could go on and on about this, but
Yeah,
unbelievable. As we wrap up this Harry thing, I'm just looking back at the things I brought. I know that there was more. Oh, Piers Morgan was on a rant this morning. So, moral crusader Prince Harry took the cash. Will he now be issuing a full and unequivocal apology to the royal family for his own serious intrusion into their lives, just like you were saying, for personal financial gain? Or is royal intrusion absolutely fine when he does it? What
yeah,
a hypocrite. Kind of the point you were making, I think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the two people that despise Harry more than anybody else are Piers Morgan and your good friend Jeremy Clarkson,
Oh,
whose
yeah.
hat you like to wear.
I did. It's
But
back here, that's right.
yeah, so I would expect the full, unloading from Piers Morgan, and that's exactly what he did there. But
Yeah,
truth be told, even though he's got a bone to pick and an axe to grind, to pick your analogy, he's not wrong.
he's not wrong, he's got a point, I agree with you, yeah. You know what's funny? Just a second ago, you said the people that hate Harry, Prince Harry, whatever, I immediately thought Meghan Markle. She hates that guy. She let him put that crap in Spare if she didn't write it herself, allegedly.
Well, isn't that an interesting question? I mean, I've had this conversation with other people about why in the world would your spouse, your girlfriend, your what I get stuff I mean, I've dated people very casually and they're like, "Hey, you seem like you're intelligent and you seem to be a good writer. I've got this thing. I know we've only been on 3 dates, but I've got this thing that I need to turn in. Do you mind? Can you
Yeah,
look at my resume or whatever?" And it's like, of course. So this notion that, and I'm willing to bet if their relationship goes where a lot of people think it's going, which is to a dark place, um, and they're the War of the Roses, the War of the Harrys, or what, pick your movie adjacent movie title. She's going to say, "Oh no, I didn't know anything about that book. That's all
uh-huh.
him. That's all him." It's like, seriously,
Mhm.
she call me crazy. I'm convinced she had a very, very strong hand in writing that book, more than likely to make it as salacious and juicy as it could possibly be. And again, I'm just speculating here,
Sure.
but also to make him look like a fool, which is
Yes,
exactly what happened.
I think so too.
It's exactly what happened.
Mhm.
And I think when push comes to shove in their marriage, which again, opinions vary on when and if that will occur, when things become combative between the two of them, that's going to be a really interesting question to listen to hear answered
I think
about,
so.
exactly how did this book come about? You
Mhm.
seriously expect the world to believe that, Meghan, you did not read it,
Yeah,
and you didn't egg him on, and even worse, you did not steer him away from
no.
I mean, it's like, are you kidding me?
There's
Are
no
you kidding me?
no more proof in the world to me that she can't stand that guy. If she didn't, again, it's all our ideas, but our opinions, but if she did not write that book, then to let him put
Yes.
that out there and
Yes.
not say, "Harry, you can't tell that story. That's between us." Whatever. "Harry, you don't wanna tell people about your mom's face cream." You know?
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And your frostbite and all of that other stuff. I mean, you know,
He talked about William being circumcised, like, stuff like that. It's just, like,
yes.
invasion of privacy and stuff that he would just be screaming from the rooftops. Continue, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
and you look like talking about what he did in the mud with an older woman behind a pub.
Exactly.
You know, that kind of like, really,
Yeah.
really, you want to put that onto a piece of paper that people are going to buy and talk about seriously,
Mhm.
and
With
um,
no regard to the woman who was there participating, right?
right,
Um,
right,
uh-huh.
and I mean, you know, example after example of all of that stuff.
Mhm.
I just I don't think I'm alone in saying that it's absolutely remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. That's why the book sold so well. People were like, "You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me. I need to
That
get a copy of this thing."
the whole time I was reading it, I kept saying, "You've got to be kidding me. Is this for real? Is he still talking about his Todger?"
Right, right. It's just
Crazy.
unbelievable. You know, the other thing too, I know, Jen, you like to talk about Meghan's wardrobe and so forth.
Mhm. I do.
It occurred to me the other day when I was watching the inauguration. All these people were coming in with these beautiful clothes on,
Mhm.
beautiful neckties on the men and suits that obviously had just come from the dry cleaners and everything else. I guarantee you that all of those people, before they walked out the door of
Mhm.
their house or the hotel room, they looked at the person that they were with and said, "Does this look okay? What do you think of this?
Exactly.
Does this tie match this? Is this a good tie to wear? Does this look like I've slept in it?" You know, and that's just what
That's
people
what you
do when they're,
do. Yes.
well, thank you, but you know, it's just it's like, what's wrong here? This does not make any sense. This defies belief
Yeah.
that the two of them are not better on the same wavelength. And you know,
Uh-huh.
we've talked a little bit before. Again, it's a little unfair, but it's such an easy comparison. You look at William and Catherine
Mhm.
and the way that they relate to each other, and the comment that I think one of us made when we were talking about this previously is that they have this kind of a secret language,
They
like
do.
all couples do. Like, oh
Mhm.
gosh, I see something over there that I know my boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever
Mhm.
would really want to see. And it's, hey, are you seeing this over here? This you gotta see this. You got, you know, and they have this little secret language, secret code, whatever you want to call it. And Harry and Meghan don't seem to have that at all.
They
They
don't.
do not seem to have that at all. And if anything, as as you so often talk about, it's you know, hand. It's, you know what it reminds me of is, you know, if you go in the, you're standing on the street in front of the grocery store or whatever,
Mhm.
and there's a mother with a little kid, and they're about to step out into the parking lot, and the mother says to the little kid, "All right, hold mommy's hand.
Hold my hand. That's
Hold
right.
mommy's hand. We're about to walk out in with cars going every which direction. I don't want you to get squashed." I mean, that's basically what it.
You're right.
Oh my goodness, it's just remarkable.
If
And
you
again,
yeah.
the idea that in that type of a circumstance, that he doesn't look at her and say, "Look," or even in a private moment, "Look, this
Right.
whole hand-holding thing, people are talking, they think we're weirdos." And
Exactly.
again, at the inaugural the other day, you saw people coming down these steps, and I don't know if they're granite or marble or what kind of steps they were, some kind of stone.
Mhm.
And one of the, it, I guess it was, I'm trying to think who it was. It was a couple, they were coming down the steps. The man was holding on to the handrail. The woman was right beside, the wife was right beside. She's wearing high heels,
Mhm.
and you could tell they're holding on for dear life.
Sure.
Why would you want your wife to face plant on the steps with you standing? Yes, totally normal. Yes,
Exactly.
she's got heels on and they're on these slippery granite steps or whatever. Of course you're going
Sure.
to do that. It's just
Uh-huh.
not the way people behave. Um, the way Harry and Meghan behave, it's just not. There's a weirdness about it, and there's a
There
me-
is.
it's a there's a mechanicalness to it and a performance aspect to it
Mhm.
that, I mean, when they were walking on the fire ground the other day and they were, um, leaving hand in hand.
Mhm.
He's got on normal flat shoes. She's got on white tennis shoes, and
I
they're hanging on to each other for dear life. Like,
absolutely.
this is just odd.
Just no awareness that this is not a walk on the beach. This is not a romantic stroll. This is
Yes.
devastation. Absolutely. I
Yes.
made the same analogy. Again, I went through a hurricane and I just can't imagine standing in my front yard crying with my neighbors. But let's get romantic. You know what I mean? Like with somebody like grabbing on.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
such an
To
odd
say
reaction. And I'd be pissed off if somebody was standing in my yard. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh,
right, and to say nothing of just like, I'm sorry, I need my hand back. My nose itches. You know what I mean? It's like, I've got an itch that I need to scratch on the side of my face. Give me my hand back, please.
That's right.
You
I
know,
just
which
did a
everybody
video.
does, or
uh,
you know,
we just did a video revealing the narcanite, and she showed a video. All he was trying to do is button his button right here, and she
yes,
just grabbed on his hand, and I thought, "What a lunatic! That would make me nuts." I just feel like I'm good. And I
yes,
always say, if it was the other way around, and this guy was so controlling, he wouldn't let his partner or whatever button her jacket, I would be like, "There's something wrong here. Like, she needs help." You know?
right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right. Yeah, it's
crazy.
that way, and
Mm.
it's so remarkable. Again, if one of the two of them doesn't say, hey, babe, that
Yeah,
that looks really good on you, but
yeah,
geez, can
yeah.
we take 5? Can you run upstairs and grab the iron and before we get in the car? I
Why
mean,
why are your
we've
boobs
all
this
been
big?
there.
I'm just kidding.
We've all been there. Really,
Yes, but
you
okay,
know?
even beyond that, even if it's not a romantic, I talk about it. My good friend Spicy, who's here, and she's always here, and she's in my chats. I text her a picture sometimes before I go on a live and say, "Does this look okay?" And
Right.
she'll tell me, "Oh, Jen, no, the light's hitting it weird. Jen, no, whatever." Not to be mean, but to help me to
Yes.
say, "Jen, think about this. You don't see it. You only see, whatever." And I'm so thankful. So yeah, they don't have that. They don't have anything. They don't
Yeah.
have a friendship, a
It's
relationship, nothing.
it's very odd. It is
It's
very,
odd.
very odd. And I
It
don't
is,
know.
but
And
it's
everybody sees it. That's the thing. You do not have to be. I mean, there are all these people on YouTube that are body language experts, and some of them
Mhm,
are really making interesting points.
sure.
I don't know if there's a real science to all that, but you don't need to study people's, you know, you don't need to be an expert in body language or kinetics or psychiatry or psychology. You just have to be a human being that can read signs and
Uh-huh.
say, that just looks weird.
Yeah,
What is going on there? That looks really weird.
you're right.
And and we can get into this more later on when we talk about the Johnny Depp trial, but um, there's some of that there as well. Just
Yeah,
the body language, people getting on the witness stand. Am I comfortable in my own skin? I don't think Harry's comfortable in his own skin. He's clearly not, no matter
I
where he
I
goes.
don't
And it's amazing that there are camera angles that look at him. There was one view of him where Meghan was hugging somebody on the fire ground in Los
yeah,
Angeles, and he was standing to the right at a 90-degree angle, and they zoomed in and caught his facial expression, and he was like,
yeah, he looked mad. Mhm.
he's not laser focused on what his spouse is doing, and that is weird. It
Yeah,
really is weird.
uh-huh.
We
Well,
all see it.
there's a
We all see it.
theory there that, he was fed up with her taking pictures at that point, so that would be an interesting but that also speaks to, okay, so then wouldn't you just pull them aside and say, "Babe, we've got enough pictures. We need to move on," whatever. No, they don't, I don't think they communicate with each other. I just don't.
No, they totally don't. And even, I mean, you got to think about, all right, what was the thought process before they even went down there? What are we
Oh,
going to do when we get there?
yeah.
Do we really want to go? We know people are gunning for us, or at least our PR people, our staff ought to know that
Mhm.
people are watching rhrjen and Popcorn Palace and, and Trevor all and
The
Taz and all these
twins,
other
yeah.
people that are very, and Beebs Kelly and all these other really good people that are focused in, Cheer Denise and all these other good people that are really focused in on this stuff. Don't do anything that's going to give those people any more ammunition.
Yeah.
And Kinsey Schofield, for heaven's sakes, I mean, gosh, that woman talks hours every week
Mhm.
on Talk TV. And she does a fantastic job. And Maureen Callahan and all these other people, they're all very, very interested in what's going on and looking for the slightest little chink in the armor.
Mhm.
And what do? They go right out there and they give it to us.
Well, it
It,
it ties back to what you were saying. It's Harry again. It's like, "Harry, don't do stuff on the stand. Harry, don't incriminate yourself." And then here they are doing this in real life, like,
yes.
outside
Well,
of the
and
court.
as we've talked about, I'm involved in the public safety community here in my
Mhm,
area of the DC area.
mhm,
Um, all I could think was those people on the fire ground, the first responders, the last thing in the world that they want is a hug from Meghan and a pep talk from Harry. I'll tell you what those people want. They want a sandwich,
mhm,
a Coke, and they want a place to sit in peace and quiet and pull their coat over their head for 20 minutes and just collect their thoughts.
mhm.
And that's not rocket science to figure that out. You don't have to be involved in the fire department to understand that that's what people want. I just want some peace and quiet. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I just want a sandwich.
You're so right. Yep, you're spot
And to
on.
go down there and, oh, hug for you and a hug for you. And I
Mhm,
feel so bad. And thank you so much. Like,
mhm.
no,
Yeah, and
no.
we're finding out more layers to that. I just put up a video this morning about how allegedly they had, like, over 100 people cleared out so they could take photos, and I mean, it's just
Yeah.
disgusting, so
Isn't that an interesting allegation? That's really interesting.
it
And
is.
then you look at people like the Jennifer Garners,
Uh-huh.
who, again, I haven't followed her involvement, but from all indications that I've seen, she was kind of walking down the street, and
It's
a
true.
TV camera found her. A TV
Yes.
crew. Aren't you Jennifer Garner? Yeah. Hey, what are you doing out here? Well, I'm kind of bummed out. My friend lost their house, and blah blah blah. We've all seen it. Um, and Mel Gibson is out
Mhm.
there. Somehow, he really wanted to get a sense of what was going on up in the Hollywood, in the evacuated area, and so he got in the back of a fire truck. And
Mhm.
he put on the headset that those guys wear so that they can, because it's so loud you can't talk without a headset on. So he put on his headset and
Mhm.
he's in the back of the fire truck. And geez, that sucks. Well, I see now how really, really bad this is on
Uh-huh.
my own street.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, Paris Hilton even said, "I've lost my house, but I can see," basically, I'm summarizing, "I can see the bigger picture that people are worse than I am. I'm lucky. So here's
right.
$1,000,000 to go toward helping." They
Yes.
just would never, like, even if they felt the need to compelled to show up, which I don't think they should have, to the fires, they could have brought a truckload of stuff. Instead, you see Megan with 2 bags merching her friend's stuff.
Yeah.
"Look at me,"
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. And again, the same thing, if you try and merch stuff down there with
Mhm.
these big giant bags with, there's
Yeah,
the label on it. You try and
exactly.
do that, people are going to take shots at you.
That's
That's
it.
when I say shots, I mean the people are going to go after you for that, and people are going to call that out.
And
And
rightly
what?
so, yeah, uh-huh.
Yes. And So now what's the takeaway from? Well, is it? Oh, I think I'll go out and try that brand of whatever she's carrying in that bag. I forget what it was.
Had a weird
But the
name, yeah.
takeaway is, boy, isn't that in bad taste?
Yeah.
People are standing around here with literally their everything they own in their. I mean, this is what's so remarkable about it too. there are people, and it's so hard to get your head around. There are people, their life's possessions after those fires consists of what they have in their pants pockets.
Wow, scary.
I mean, let that sink in. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Forget about, oh, geez, I wrecked my car. Oh, well, that stinks. I really like that car. It's like, no. All of my possessions, all of my kids' toys, all of my family photos, all the stuff that I got from my grandmother, just gone. The only thing I have is I've got a car key now in my pocket that's useless because my car's burned up. And I've got my wallet, and I've got, my cell phone. I don't even have a charger, probably. I mean, literally, that is so profound. So the idea of going down there and hanging out with people that are in those types of dire straits. Oh, I'm here. I'm going to help you out. Or I'm going to deliver some stuff to, make sure that TMZ or whoever gets a picture of it while I've got these bags over my shoulder. It's just bizarre.
Here he's got you a donut. Here you go. Let's write a story about it. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Here's one thing that's interesting too, and I'll just make this point because I have been around. It's so interesting. Revealing the Narc talks about this, and she mentions that she was intimately aware of what was going on, allegedly, between Harry and Meghan because of her own circumstances in her own life with her. I think it's her stepmother that she talks about. I have been in the orbit of someone who is what I would call a very, very strongly inclined narcissist. I have no idea what the clinical term for that is, but somebody who is a very, very profound narcissist. It took me a long time, and I actually suffered a little bit at the hands of this person because it was inconceivable to me that somebody could be wired up in the way that that person is. In my opinion, there's that level of difference in the way that most of us are wired up and the way that the two of them are wired up. It's like I said, it is hard for people to get their head around. And I even heard that the first time when I started actually paying attention to Harry and Meghan. And I thought, well, yeah, he'd lose his mother. Yeah, he's not going to be king as long as his brother sticks around. Yeah, maybe he should be a little bitter. I can kind of understand that. He grew up in this really weird environment in the palace, and in spite of his mother's best efforts to give him a normal upbringing and everything. Okay, well, yeah, I can sort of see why he's a little different. I think it goes way beyond that.
Oh,
I really do. It really, that again, that's just my opinion, my observation, but I think it goes well beyond just, all right, the kid grew up in a weird, he was raised by wolves or something like that, except in this case, he was raised by, courtiers and whoever.
Yeah. I think you're right.
It's more than that. There's a, he's got a different setup. He's got a different operating. He's not operating on Windows or Mac or Linux. He's operating on, Harry doesn't run on Windows.
No, look no further than Spare to be able to see that clearly.
Yeah.
Let's see.
He's not on Android. Maybe he is on Android though. Let me.
Well, he does malfunction quite a bit. So. I just pissed off like a lot of my audience. I'm just kidding. As we wrap, that was pretty good. Let's see. I think there was one more. Okay, so Dan Wooten also made a good point about this, which was if it's not about the money, then surely Prince Harry should donate it all to the LA wildfire charities he cares so much about. Perhaps you could pose the question to your mate. Again, it's something you had addressed. I thought that was an interesting point.
Yeah, isn't that a great question?
Yes.
We'll know soon enough. If Archwell, and that he'll talk about it. If I mean, not Archwell, if Invictus, I'm gonna do the same thing that others have done and donate this to people who truly need it, because you know,
Well,
people that need wheelchair-friendly houses and showers and bathtubs and all of that stuff.
mhm.
There's a great use for that money, and it'll be
Yes.
really interesting to see.
And to your point, that's who William gave his,
Yes.
settlement to. So, yeah, that will be interesting to see. But
Yep.
come on. Again, just in our opinions, I'm covering our butts here. There's just no
Yep.
way. There's just no way. That dude, I think, and again, I'm just pulling this out of nowhere. It's my opinion. They are so hemorrhaging money. There's no way. I think he's so obsessed with her for whatever reason that he knows he's got to hang on to this to hang on to her a little bit longer.
I'm not even sure it's to hang on to her. I think it's to hang on to his children.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's a better way of saying it because maybe he's fed up. He does seem to be pretty fed up with her. Maybe that's a better point. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Because
so
I mean,
wild.
again, you talk about stuff that'll be trotted out. It's like,
Mhm.
why? What you're gonna award custody to this guy who's an admitted drug user, and he's an admitted this, and he talked about that, and boy, he sure seems like a weirdo. Is he fit to be to have custody of these children at some point at his place of residence? We don't know. That's going to be an interesting question. I know if I was the judge, I would certainly, and I would not wish this on anybody, but I know people who have had some serious, serious custody issues that are the result of everything that Harry has talked about in his book.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
judges look at that stuff, and social workers give a report to the judge, and um, you know, I mean, if the worst happens, and I'm not rooting for it, I don't think it's out of the question by any means. I mean, I think
Mhm.
I see the same things that everybody else sees and that talks about and so forth.
Yeah.
But um, I, I I I wish the guy luck. If
Yeah.
push really comes to shove, I think he's going to have a really unpleasant time in family court.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too. And then I guess my last question is so this we're still getting details, but so this should settle this. But he's always got more stuff cooking. What other cases? I know he has at least one more case and probably 15 more. Are you aware? Do you know what
Well,
else?
he's got this big thing against about his personal protection when
That's
he's
it.
back in the
That's it.
UK.
I knew there was something else. I just couldn't get it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Do you know much about that, or are you up on that stuff, or not so much?
I'm not so much up on that, other than I know that every time I read something about it, people are saying he's an absolute fool to try and push this forward. And
Okay.
and again, it's like we're you know what does he really want? All he has, the guy lives in California, so he's not. I mean, as far as I know, they don't have their own private plane.
Mhm.
So if he's going to plan a trip to the UK, he's got to do some forward arrangements
Mhm.
to come up with a hotel and book an airline ticket and everything like that. And it's not the kind of thing you just do on the spur of the moment. And he's allowed, I don't know exactly, I think it's 28 days. He's allowed to request, basically, from what I gather, a normal level of protection,
Uh-huh.
provided he provides 28 days of notice.
Okay. Hmm.
So, um, and should I tell the Jeff Bezos?
Yes,
Um,
please. I think it's so interesting. Yes.
well, I can tell a couple of stories that really stick in my mind. One of which was I was talking to a friend the other day, and she had been out to eat at a fancy restaurant that she likes to go to. And she said that I think if I understood correctly, she came out of the front of the restaurant after she had eaten, and lo and behold, there's Jeff Bezos standing on the sidewalk, and
Hmm.
I think Lauren Sanchez as well.
Mhm.
And she's thought, oh, kind of interesting, Jeff Bezos. You don't see him every day. And she said one of the parking valets came around the corner and got out of this car, and Jeff Bezos walked over and got in the driver's seat.
Wow.
you
Yeah.
know, so, it's like, and I'm quite certain that he has some sort of protection around him, if for no
Sure.
other reason than, his net worth. He would be
Mhm.
a very appealing target for somebody who wanted to really cause a problem.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like, geez, the guy drives his own car.
Sure.
When do you think the last time was that Meghan Markle pulled up to the gas pump and stuck the gas hose in her car? Really? Uh,
Never. Except for
yes,
when she's posing for, milkshake pictures for the kids. That's about it, but no, she's
right,
not doing when's the last time she went grocery shopping, you think? You know what I mean? Like, no, I don't think she's doing
right,
that.
right. Well, and we saw the picture of Angelina Jolie at the
Yes.
grocery store after the
Mhm.
fire,
Yeah.
and somebody tried to talk to her,
Mhm.
and she was like, "Listen, appreciate the attention, but I got a house full of people right now, and I haven't got a thing to eat. So, can we do this later on? I'm trying to get out of here."
Yeah.
And they were like, "Yeah, sure, why not?
Great.
Makes total sense."
Uh-huh.
And again, perfect example of the type of interaction that celebrities kind of accidentally had.
Yeah.
Certainly not Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie went to the grocery store to get food for her house
Mhm.
guests, to get out to try and resolve the chaos at her house.
Exactly. Yeah.
Meghan and Harry did not go down there because they needed a gallon of
Mhm.
milk.
No.
They went down there because they knew there was going to be a picture taken.
That's
You
it.
know.
Exactly it.
Um, so anyway, there's Jeff Bezos. I told you the other day, Jen, when we were discussing this. I have a friend who was in. There's a store called Restoration Hardware, which is kind
Mhm.
of a high end. They sell furniture, they sell candlesticks, they sell wall sconces, vases, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, she said she was in the store. All of a sudden, the door opened, and this kind of short, interesting looking guy kind of ran through the store and looked at something or grabbed it or said to somebody, I want that, blah, blah, blah. Turned out it was Prince. This is in Georgetown in Washington, D.C. Prince had been sitting in the back of a car at a traffic light on Wisconsin Avenue in Georgetown, and had looked out the window and had seen something in the store window at Restoration Hardware, told the driver, "Hey, pull over. I want to go in that store." Can you imagine if Harry did that? Or, I mean, it would have to be clear the store, close the
Yeah.
door, block the sidewalk, blah, 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 blah. Um, I speaking of gas stations, I was at a I was putting gas in my car one time. I looked over, who's on the other side of the pump? Al Franken, some
Oh, that's
former
oh,
U.S. senator, was on Saturday Night Live
yeah.
forever. They just stand there. Hurry up, hurry up! I'm cold. I want to get out of here, get back in the car, and get on my way. And you see people. One of the things that's interesting about Washington is that no matter where you go, you're going to run into somebody, a congressman, a senator, member of the cabinet, whatever it is. Um, there's a train that runs, the Amtrak trains, there are several of them that run basically every 30 or 45 minutes between Washington and New York, and you can continue on to Boston. There's also shuttle service on Delta Airlines, American Airlines. Get on the plane in Washington, go to New York to LaGuardia, or go up to Logan in Boston. I guarantee you get on any one of those planes or any one of those trains at any hour of the day, you can find somebody who is high profile and is probably somebody you've seen on TV
Mm,
recently
mm,
who's on one of those trains. And
mhm.
again, you walk the length of the train, you're going to spot somebody that you know,
That's it.
or that you recognize.
Sure.
And they just, granted, and there are degrees of this kind of thing. I was at a dinner about 6 months ago, and all of a sudden, all these guys walked in with, there's a certain kind of case that a lot of the security people carry, and it's very obvious that it's got a gun in it, and a big gun. But they keep it zipped up in this bag so it doesn't freak everybody out wherever they go. Anyway, all of a sudden there are these guys sitting there eating dinner, and boy, there's a guy there, and there's a guy over there, and over there, and over there, and over there. Anyway, turned out that we knew there was going to be a speaker that came in. Turned out it was Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. He's the number 3 person
Yeah.
to take command of the United States. Behind the president, the vice president, the next person in line is the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Mhm.
Well, here he came in the room. Okay, I get it. Makes
Yeah.
total sense. Makes
Sure.
total sense.
Uh-huh.
And these guys were, they're eyeballing everybody, and they're ready to rock and roll at a moment's notice. But when you see people like that, the thing that reminded me of that is that if you look carefully at the video of Harry and Meghan when they were with Chef Andres of World
Mhm.
Central Kitchen, there are these guys walking around and they have these bags slung diagonally over their shoulders. And it
Mhm.
just reminds me, because that's what these guys look like that were, Secret Service or with Mike Johnson or whoever it is.
Yeah.
It's just interesting, the level of like how you call yourself a private citizen, and yet you've got this level of, I need big
I
entourage production, whatever it is. Again,
That's
like,
it.
why can't you just be like Jeff Bezos? Oh, yeah, I'll drive myself.
Exactly. You end up drawing more attention to yourself by
Yes,
doing things like that. I agree.
it's kind of the Barbara
Mhm.
Streisand effect in a
Yes.
lot of ways. And I've I have been places where Larry Hogan, who is the previous, not the current, but the previous governor of the state of Maryland, has been. He had one. He had a guy, a young guy there that was basically collecting business cards that people wanted to give him. Um, he had a driver
Mhm.
so that he could do work while somebody else was driving. And he had a state trooper there, a state police officer
Sure.
who was in plain clothes. I didn't even know who the guy was until he introduced himself. Like, oh, I'm the governor's security person.
Oh,
I'm sure he had but it was just like, it was so nondescript and so down to earth and so no fanfare, no, oh my gosh, I'm under constant threat. There's a governor. There's only 50
yeah.
of those. There's only 50 governors in the United States. Here's this guy. He's the chief executive of the entire state of Maryland.
Mhm.
He's got, you know, driver and a helper
Yeah.
and one police officer. No
Sure.
biggie, you know.
There's one, celebrity that you forgot to mention that I need you to tell the story of that I think you had maybe a friend of a friend that involves a pair of jeans. Do you remember?
Oh, yes. That's a good story. Thanks for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
So, there was a time, and this goes back to, I think, the late 80s.
Mhm.
There's a time when it was around the holidays. Princess Diana was in Washington, and I believe she was staying at the British Embassy,
Mhm.
which, by the way, I know you have some British viewers. If you ever come to Washington, the British Embassy is one of the most beautiful buildings in Washington, especially the
Oh,
old part.
oh,
And one of the really cool things about it is that there's a statue of Winston Churchill
oh,
on the edge of the embassy grounds, and he's standing with one foot in front of the other. And I think even this is shown on the plaque, the bronze plaque that's next to the statue. He's got one foot on American soil and then one foot on British soil on the embassy grounds.
that's
It's
amazing.
cool. It's really cool to see.
Cool.
But anyway, she was staying at the British Embassy,
Mhm.
and she decided that she wanted a pair of jeans.
Mhm.
So for those not in the United States, there's a store called Banana Republic,
Mhm.
and she showed up at a Banana Republic, which was near the British Embassy, and apparently walked into the store in a very nonchalant way. And of course, she had security people there and a driver, but I don't think it was a huge entourage.
Sure.
But there was a girl working in the store who was home. I think she was at Dartmouth. She was a Dartmouth student. She had come home for winter break. She wanted to make a few extra dollars. And so she took a part-time job at Banana Republic. And this was all reported in the newspaper. But she said, well, we had been instructed that when a customer comes in and they start to dig through the pile of blue jeans or look through the merchandise or whatever,
Mhm.
well, that's the point at which we're supposed to go over and speak to the customer and ask if they need help and introduce ourselves. So she said, well, I thought she looked a lot like Princess Diana, and then I saw these two guys standing in the background, and I realized, well, that probably is Princess Diana. But I know what instructions I've been given. She's looking through the jeans. I'm supposed to go over and talk to her. So over she went
Uh-huh.
and said, hi, I'm, Michelle or whatever. Can I help you find something? And well, I'm looking for a pair of jeans, but I'm not familiar with the American sizing. I'm only familiar with the British sizing. Well, here, let me give you a couple. Take this and take this and take this, and here's the fitting room in the back. And you can. Anyway, she found herself a pair of jeans. And anyway, again, like I said, it was written up in the newspaper. I think
Mhm.
not only is it a fun story, but because it was like, well, you know what? Good for Princess Diana. She's
Yeah.
not above. I want a pair of blue jeans. Where can I get a pair of blue jeans? Oh, let's go down to Banana Republic. All right,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
No muss, no fuss. I just want a pair of pants. That's
Let's
all.
clear out the commoners so I can take pictures and hold hands. Yeah,
No,
yeah, none of that. Yeah,
no,
no.
no. And like I said, and it was just such a fun story, and it was just so normal. I think
Yeah.
that's what they were trying to capture in reporting this and putting in the newspaper.
And
So,
an argument could have been made that she could have had more people with her, made a bigger deal, and she
oh,
didn't. She chose
absolutely,
not to. But not with
absolutely,
those 2, not with those 2, yeah.
absolutely. Well, I'll tell you one other thing that's actually sort of funny, and I haven't mentioned this before, but there was also a time, I think it was on that same trip, when she announced that she really wanted to go swimming.
Mhm.
And they were like, geez, we don't have a swimming pool at the embassy. And so anyway, they made some phone calls, and there's a school near the British embassy that had an indoor pool.
Mhm.
And that I think they did clear out, or I think they went after hours. That's really what they did.
Sure.
And they said, look, we don't want any problems with Princess Diana's going to get a bathing suit on, get in a swimming pool. We don't want any,
Yeah.
paparazzi dealing with. So under those circumstances, yes, clear
Great.
the place out, you know,
Sure.
totally understandable. And I'm not sure at that point no, that would have been before she got pictures taken of her on a beach someplace else, I think. But at that time, she was still very much, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Before all that.
up and coming queen,
Uh-huh.
Princess Diana, and so we don't want any pictures. So they cleared the place out except for one guy. They said you could have a lifeguard. But
Uh-huh.
I think what they said is you can't have the pool unless we have to have a lifeguard there for
Sure.
obvious reasons.
Uh-huh.
And they said, okay, well, and I think the guy who was the pool manager ended up being the lifeguard.
Mhm.
But it was all done on a very, was not publicly announced. There were not
Absolutely. Right.
photographers out on the sidewalk, but it was
That
just like, oh,
grid, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
she wants to go swimming. All right, who
Sure.
doesn't like to go swimming once in a while?
Great.
Why not? Make it happen.
Yeah.
No, no big
Mhm.
production and
I'm sure she
easy.
was lovely to the staff, and that's that. That's it.
Of
Yeah.
course. Of
Absolutely.
course.
Yeah, what a
Yes,
difference.
absolutely. And there's even a story where she was in I'm not sure if this was pre or post divorce,
Mhm.
but there's some story of her being in a gym somewhere in London, and Simon Le Bon of Duran Duran was in the gym, and they had a little chit chat and yucked it up a little bit and laughed with one another. And she went over and got on the treadmill or the stairmaster or whatever it was, and okay, I'm here for my workout, no big deal.
Huh. Yeah, that's
So
interesting.
you can be surprisingly normal
Mhm.
as a high profile person or as a celebrity if you want to.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. Hmm.
And like I said, I've been amazed at the number of times that I remember sitting in the waiting room in the train station in Philadelphia one time, and there was Eric Holder, I believe. And I think at that point it was, forget exactly what he was doing career wise, but I believe he was either a previous attorney. I think he had been the attorney general of the
Wow.
United States.
Uh-huh.
And he's just sitting there waiting on the train like
Wow.
everybody else. Where is
Uh-huh.
it? I want to go. You know,
That's
so
interesting.
you
Huh.
can be remarkably normal, and that's a big difference between Washington. People compare Hollywood, and Washington and New York. Oh, you've got all these egomaniacs running around. Yes, true,
Mhm.
but in Washington, you've got people who have big egos, but it's just kind of like, I just don't feel like I'm not going to wear that on my sleeve right
No.
now. Unlike, I think, in Hollywood, where people are,
Yeah.
they have to have a big production constantly.
Wow. Well, John, thank you so much for answering all of our questions about this. And I mean, as he does more weird court stuff, I'm going to be like getting you back on the show to explain what the heck's going
Sure.
on.
Yeah.
Thank you for breaking it down for us. So guys, we're gonna go record more and we're gonna go deep into the Johnny Depp of it all. So if that interests you at all, definitely check us out on a separate video. But John, what tell us about you. Like what can we do for you? Do you want us to follow you on social media? Have you thought about starting up a YouTube channel? How can we support you?
Yeah, I kind of have, I have to say, the people on YouTube that I admire, like you, Jen, work so incredibly hard. They're people that are pumping out 2 and 3 videos a day. And when I think about having a YouTube channel, it's just remarkable. I just think about, okay, everything else that I've got going on with work and everything else. And I just think, oh, I couldn't really do it justice. I'm coming around to doing it justice. But
Yeah.
if people, and the reason that I come on, incidentally, just because people always ask, well, why do you keep doing these videos? I really do it because I try to be a positive ambassador for the legal profession and for the law, and to help people understand that, the legal system is, even though it looks like it, to me sometimes even, it's not black magic, it's not voodoo, there's a rhyme and a reason to it. There's a common sense element to it. And if I can help people kind of understand that a little bit better and be an ambassador for the profession as an attorney, I feel like that's a worthy goal. So that's why I don't mind at all coming on and spending time on people's YouTube channels. I consider it a privilege to be able to do that. And I always tend to get predominantly positive feedback too. So I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job of that. I will just say I do have an Instagram page. It's Witherspoon DC.
Okay.
And if people want to go over and follow me there, that would be great. And then if I end up cranking up a Twitter account, which is another thing I've considered, or if I end up cranking up a YouTube page, then if I'll certainly make an announcement about it there, and then people can follow me. So I
Yes.
appreciate that offer.
Yeah. No, I'm all for it. I think you should, even if you just post, as you were able to once a week, twice a week, that's something. I think people would really, I know when I made the announcement you were coming on, people were very positive about it. So you definitely have a following. So that's great. That's awesome. So
Well,
again,
I
thank you for
appreciate
your,
that.
yeah, thank you for your time and for answering all our questions. And again, I can't wait to break down the Johnny Depp Amber Heard. So look for that separately. But John, thank you as always. And I look forward to speaking with you very soon.
Sounds great. Thank you, Jen.
Bye bye.
Bye.